Morning. I'm just chilling out this Obon, what is it, a Friday? So I'll upload this very shortly and you'll get it almost live. Not that it matters. What I'm actually talking about today is, well, let me get to it in a roundabout way. Day before yesterday, I was at a loose end and found myself wandering along Yasukuni Dori, the big street that goes from Kanda up to through Jimbocho, the second-hand book centre of Japan, all the way up to Kudanshita, where across the road is the Budokan, famously where the Beatles played once, many moons ago, and Deep Purple. Anyway, so what was interesting to me was, I like books. I like to look at the second-hand books. A lot of the places were shut, actually. Some of them have closed down because of the, just changing tastes. But also half of them were closed because of Obon, so that was my own fault, really. But one reason I wanted to walk around there was, I like the atmosphere, and it's kind of fun to look at the old books, and a lot of them have English sections. It doesn't seem like they refresh the number of books they have very often. But anyway, I walked along the big wide street, and it goes up a hill up towards the Budokan. And across from Budokan, the Kudanshita station entrance, the entrance to the Tozai line, right on the corner there, just at the entrance to the Yasukuni Shrine, which is it's a controversial shrine because they have Japanese war dead or interred there, buried there. So every year, the left wing gets upset because the right wing goes there and prays for the war dead. However, right at that entrance was where I used to work 30 years ago at Berlitz. There used to be a Berlitz eikaiwa on the second floor of a nondescript office building. There used to be big offices around there. There still are big offices, but there used to be a company called the Long-Term Bank of Japan before it crashed, before the 2008 crash. Anyway, we used to get lots of bankers coming over. Right bunch of bankers they were. My point is, walking through Yasukuni Dori, and you're seeing these old businesses, these old book businesses that are just barely hanging on, although still hanging on. In fact, there's one that seemed quite a hustling and bustling hive of activity. It's the famous one where they've got books on the side of the street, on the side of the bookstores on a corner, and along one corner of the bookstore they've just put books outside on the side of the wall. There's loads of books, and that's become a sort of an internet meme place. In fact, they have signs up in English saying, please stop standing around taking pictures of yourselves and blocking the customers. However, when I walked past there, I went down up the street and then back down like an hour later. And both times there were these young, pretty things taking pictures of themselves and filming there. I don't think they would ever read a book. Oh. Looking at them, I don't think they'd know what a book was. Oh, I'm so arrogant. But no, really, I don't think they did. But, they were taking pictures of themselves because it's a famous locale, and so that's become the thing. If that bookshop was smart, they'd find some way of, get some postcards or something that you could buy there, Instagram-friendly merch. They can make a pretty penny off of it. But anyway, that's what I would do if I had that property. However, my point is that Berlitz is no longer there, and the building is there. But where I spent many an anguished hour and perfecting my skills as an English teacher, such as they are. The place is no longer there. I mean, the building is there, but the Berlitz has long since moved on, as has the big company that provided most of the customers. And it made me think about one of the things that I often say about being self-employed is that it's actually safer than working for a company. In this example, if you worked for Berlitz, if you were somehow connected to that credential location, you'd be, to use a technical expression, shit out of luck. Because, times have changed and it's moved on, and you would have to move on. Of course, this is the nature of business. But it makes you think, just because it's a big company, Berlitz is in quite a bit of financial trouble, I think. Maybe no more than others, but even when I was working there was a strong union presence because they kept messing around with the contracts and having pay. How they used to give, I forget what they called it, but you get bonus pay if you were considered a good teacher. That doesn't sound so bad, but what it meant was there was a sort of a hierarchy of, oh, you're a good teacher and you're a bad teacher, and you get paid less for doing the same amount of work as somebody else. It was not pleasant. Also, they would overhire teachers, so you'd have a bunch of teachers but only a certain number of students, so you were guaranteed to have less income because it just wasn't enough to go around, and that seemed kind of deliberate. At the time, that's how it seemed, as from the employee's point of view. Anyway, which is all to say, you never know with these big companies. They're not as resilient as you might think. And just because you've got a small company, you actually might be more resilient. You might be like one of those little mom and pop second-hand bookshops that somehow survive when they seem like they're a hangover from the 50s. So, my point is, yes, keep adapting, and don't worry if you're not a big company. You might actually outlive the big fish. Be a little minnow that can swim. Don't be the big koi that drowns. Or something, I don't know. I've lost it there. But anyway, business conditions change and you have to change with them. But you're better able to do that as a small company. That's what I was taking from it. But also, the situation changes. What used to be a mighty company, Berlitz, is now, they closed their Eikaiwa in Kashiwa. They're probably a much smaller operation than they used to be. I don't mean to pick on Berlitz particularly, but a lot of companies are like that, in the same boat. Yeah. Anyway, it was literally a journey down memory lane as I walked up and down Yasukuni Dori. But I reflected that I'm in a good place now, and you could be too. So, don't worry about the big guys. Do what you do. Have a nice remaining weekend of the Obon Festival time. And see you next week. I'll be back at it and back at 'em next week. Cheerio.